Hello, everyone. CoinHound here after a bit of an extended absence. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope this 2023 is off to a healthy and prosperous start for all. Today, we will be looking at the Franklin Pierce Presidential Silver Medal from the U.S. Mint. Let's start by looking at the medal itself. So this is the standard packaging of the Presidential Silver Medals program. It comes in a greenish type hue. You have an outer sleeve and then an inner box. Certificate of authenticity. And of course, a nice little clamshell, which they have kept for this product, even though they have taken that from some of the other products that are produced by the Mint. So this is the medal here. Let me pull it out, and I will try to focus in on it here with my camera. Let's move this down so you can get a nice, good view. Oh, and there is a spot up there. Okay, that's on the outer part. Excellent. Okay, so here it is. Franklin Pierce, President of the United States, 1853 to 1857. And this continues the series. And it continues with each medal in the series being basically a duplicate or a replica to the real-life presidential peace medals that were issued during the presidency of each of these leaders. And so each of the medals generally has a bust of the presidential figure right there. And I'm just going to change this around a little bit so you can get a little bit better lighting. So this is Franklin Pierce. In a few minutes, I'll give you just a brief overview biography of Franklin Pierce, of his life and his role as president. And when we turn it over, we get this back here. Remember, these were primarily created to be peace medals to be distributed to Native American tribes as a sign of friendship and peace from the United States government. Most of those earlier designs did have a tomahawk and a peace pipe on them, along with two hands shaking in friendship. The Millard Fillmore coin had this reverse here, as does the Pierce medal, and I meant medal earlier. All right, so you have, once again, the same kind of common imagery of friendship. You have the Native American on the right. You have a European American, I guess you'd call them, on the left. It looks like an American flag in the background, and some instruments there. Looks like, I don't know, is that some sort of a sledgehammer or maybe an axe? And then perhaps a plow as they are meeting here. And so these oftentimes would be distributed. Oftentimes they'd have a hole punched in the top, and they would be worn as necklaces by the chiefs of the various Native American tribes. Now, if you'd bear with me a couple moments, we'll take a look at the series, a brief look at the series, a brief look at the life of Franklin Pierce, and we'll see how sales have been going for the series. Now that we've had a chance to look at the medal itself, I just want to give a little bit of background on the series real quick, so I hope you all stick with me. First up, for the 2023 schedule, we have 4 more presidential silver medals planned, beginning with James Buchanan in February 13th. Now, I am pretty excited about this year because we've had a fairly extensive stretch here of presidents that are, let's say, a bit nondescript. They're not generally the best-known presidents or the most popular presidents. For example, Martin Van Buren and William Henry Harrison and John Tyler and Zachary Taylor and Millard Fillmore and Franklin Pierce. Not exactly the fan favorites when it comes to American presidents. This year, however, we're going to have 2 big ones. And I'm not talking about James Buchanan, who many consider to be the worst president in the history of the country. Instead, sometime in the spring of 2023, we are going to have an Abraham Lincoln Presidential Silver Medal, and then in the fall, Ulysses S. Grant. So I am very excited about those, and I will be very curious to see if there'll be a jump up in sales. Now let's take a look at the life and times of Franklin Pierce, 14th President of the United States, one term, 1853 to 1857. Now Franklin Pierce was born in 1804. He died in 1869. Life about 65 years. He was a New Hampshire native, born and bred. By profession, he was a lawyer and politician. He had quite a distinguished career, serving in both the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. In the late 1840s, when the Mexican-American War came along, he turned down an offer by President Polk to be Attorney General of the United States so that he could volunteer to serve in the war. And he ultimately was appointed a brigadier general and led a brigade into Mexico, seeing some action while there. However, he did have a bad fall from a horse, which resulted in a bad knee injury that hampered his participation in the war thereafter. In 1853, he is going to be elected president as a nominee of the Democrat Party. Now, in his time as president, he was basically a Northern Democrat. So the Democrats ran him because with the anti-slavery sentiment in the North, a Southern Democrat probably didn't have much chance of winning the presidency, but they felt that if they ran a Northerner under the Democratic banner, they might have a chance, and he did win. And he was not a friend to the abolition movement. He did oppose abolitionists. He signed the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854, which reopened portions of the northern territories to slavery, areas that had been closed to slavery in the Missouri Compromise of 1820. And this angered many Northerners, particularly those who were abolitionists. He also enforced the fugitive slave law, which was put in place by the Compromise of 1850 at the end of the Mexican-American War. This was a law that basically legally required Northerners to assist in the return of escaped slaves from the North to the South. That also created a lot of anger in the North. As Pierce's first term came to an end, he set about being nominated for a second term and to represent the Democratic Party in the general election, and ran into, at least from his perspective, some unexpected opposition. The Democratic Party was well aware that his actions had made him very unpopular in the North, and a number of Democrats challenged him for the nomination in the convention. And ultimately, James Buchanan would prevail. And this is the only time in American history that a sitting president has actively sought the nomination of his party in the process of seeking a second term and did not win that nomination. So he basically was denied the nomination by the party. James Buchanan won the nomination, and James Buchanan would ultimately win the general election and become president. Now, for those of you that are history buffs out there, one of my big hobbies when I'm out and about and traveling is to try to visit presidential homes and sites. I did have an opportunity a few years ago to visit the Franklin Pierce home in New Hampshire, pictured here. It's known as the Pierce Manse, and it's in Concord, New Hampshire, I believe. And it was a fun visit, sometimes seeing the lesser presidents' sites, and can be very interesting because oftentimes you don't really know much about them. This site was kind of nice, simple, but fun to visit. Doesn't get a lot of foot traffic as best I can tell. It's only open 3 days a week in the summer, but worth a visit if you're in the vicinity. And apparently they will open up for appointments year-round, but just have general opening hours in the summer. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, these presidential medals are replicas of real-life peace medals that were issued at the time of these presidents. On your screen, you have a picture of one of the authentic original medals, and this is from 1853, when his inauguration year. And it has an appraised value here. This one you're seeing at $1,840. So they can be quite valuable. I think this is from the website Coin Appraiser. And so it's always interesting to look at the real thing and see what value it has. They're not silver metals. Most of them weren't silver metals. They were often made of mixed metals. So the value is not from the precious metals content, but from the historical value. Now, when it comes to Franklin Pierce's place in history, I tend to give you a little update on each president as to where they stand in surveys of American historians. There's a survey conducted by C-SPAN every few years in which a number of historians are surveyed, and they rank the presidents from top to bottom on a series of categories. And then a aggregate score is calculated. So as you can see here, Franklin Pierce, in the most recent survey of 2021, has ranked 42nd. So he is pretty much at the bottom, 42 out of 44, and he's been judged pretty consistently across the years. So not much of a presidency, at least from the perspective of American historians. Now, this is from CoinNews.net. Last week's sales numbers from the U.S. Mint, and it takes a look at the presidential medal series, and you can see that the Franklin Pierce presidential silver medal had sales of about 11,800, and so this is basically maybe 3 months into the run. These medals are on sale indefinitely, so all of the medals that have been issued can still be purchased at the U.S. Mint, and you can see that generally recent medals have started out at around 11,000 medals sold and then slowly build up over time. Recent medals generally being in the 12 to 13,000 total sales range. Some of the earlier presidents, obviously they've been on sale longer, and some of them are much more prominent presidents, have higher sales numbers, with basically Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and John Adams topping the numbers. And not surprisingly, George Washington with 33,000 stands tall above all the others in sales. So I'll be very curious to see this upcoming year, Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant, whether those early sales are a bit higher than some of these much less known presidents. So anyways, that brings our video to a close here. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great evening, great day, whatever it is, wherever you're at. And this is CoinHound signing out.